Welcome to Marine Tech Talk, a podcast about how Teledyne Marine's innovative technologies are enabling scientific discoveries and commercial tasks in the world's oceans and waterways. In this fall series of podcasts, we introduce some of the winners and general entrants from the 2020 Teledyne Marine Photo Contest. Teledyne's annual photo and data contest concluded with over 80 qualified submissions that helped the company donate more than $1,200 to Save the Children as part of our charitable giving campaign. In this episode, we meet Fiona Elliott, a past oceanographic engineer at the National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research in New Zealand. Fiona's contest submission was a photo of a Slocum glider deployment, investigating regions of freshwater influence in the Taranaki Bight in New Zealand. Fiona's submission won her this year's Zen Award. Now here is Fiona Elliott with the host of Marine Tech Talk, Melissa Rossi.
So for our listeners, Fiona Elliott is here with us today, and Fiona submitted a beautiful picture of a Slocum glider. And we're going to have her talk a little bit about that picture today to our annual photo contest. And she won our Zen Moment Award for sure. And when all of you see that picture, you'll understand why. So Fiona, could you tell us a little bit about what you do, where you work, and then we'll get into the photo.
Okay, well, I'm an oceanographic engineer. At the time, when I took the photo, I was working for the National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research in New Zealand. Now I'm working as an oceanographic engineer in Bergen, Norway. But my job involves working with oceanographic instrumentation across a range of different fields, primarily in physical oceanography, but also biology, fisheries, geology, the whole range really. If it goes in the water, we tend to help out in some respect.
Do you typically work with autonomous vehicles, or are you working with other equipment as well?
So 50% of my role involves working with autonomous underwater vehicles, mainly Slocum ocean gliders, and then the other 50% of my time I'll work with oceanographic moorings and other oceanographic standalone instrumentation.
Great. So the picture you sent us, and I'm just going to describe it, but for our listeners who want to see it, you'll see it on the podcast page, and you'll also see it, or you may have seen it in the social media that got you to this recording. But that picture showed a beautiful Slocum glider that apparently was photographed. It's actually at the water surface, so I presume it's telemetering data. And there are some mountains in the background. Could you tell us about the photo, where it was taken, Fiona, and what you were doing with the glider at that time?
So this photo was taken on the west coast of the North Island of New Zealand in a region called Taranaki. The mountain or volcano that you can see in the background is Mount Taranaki. It's one of the four main volcanoes of the North Island. At the time when I took the photo, we were actually deploying the glider. We had enlisted the help of the local Coast Guard. The Coast Guard in New Zealand is a volunteer organisation, so it was really kind of them to help us out with deploying our ocean glider that day. The day was quite noticeable because of the uncharacteristically nice weather that we had. It's usually quite a dynamic environment over there. So it was really nice to have a beautiful day with the volcano in the background. And I think when the photo was taken, we were just offloading the full data set from a recent dive that we had been testing the flight dynamics of the ocean glider. So I actually asked the skipper if he could line up the glider perfectly with the volcano in the background, and I probably spent a good 5 minutes trying to get the volcano and the glider and the wave height all lined up for the shot that you see in that photo.
You did a fabulous job, I have to say. I don't think there's a professional photographer out there that could have done better. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
When you took the picture, were you thinking about submitting it, or did you just want a nice picture because it was a beautiful day?
I wanted a nice picture because it was a beautiful day. And before we had even come out on the boat, I had an idea in my head that I wanted that kind of picture. I think literally the weekend before that, I had actually been climbing Mount Taranaki. So I was on the other side of the situation, on the top of the volcano, looking down on the Taranaki Bight and seeing all the sediments suspended in the water and things like that. So, yeah, I had an idea that I wanted to get the shot. And the skipper was patient enough to oblige me.
That's nice. It looks really like a quite remote area. I don't see anything in, other than the volcano and the water there. I don't see evidence of buildings or anything else. Is it quite remote there? And how far out were you to see?
I think we were on the 60-meter contour. So we were probably 2 miles out from the coast. It is quite a remote environment in that there's not a lot of, there's a very low population on the west coast of the North Island. So there were no towns or areas around the place.
And how did your data collection go on that trip?
Very successful. So the project or the glider deployment was actually a collaboration with the local district council, who were interested in understanding more of how the rivers in the region are affecting the coastal marine area. So we were specifically looking at regions of freshwater influence along the CMA. The deployment lasted about 32 days, which we were using lithium-ion rechargeable batteries, so probably what we expected. The payload of the glider consisted of a CTD, an Anthera dissolved oxygen optode, a wet labs ecopack, measuring chlorophyll, CDOM, and scattering, and then also a biospherical path sensor. So we were focused on looking at the biological ocean properties, the spatial and vertical distribution of those in the area. The deployment was a success. Previous to that, there was not, there was quite limited observations of the regions of freshwater in the area, and that's because of the strong currents that are found in the area, and it kind of means that oceanographic moorings aren't really suitable for picking up measurements of these types there. So a glider was well suited to the application.
That's great. I want to thank you for the beautiful picture and the photo submission. I'm hoping that you'll get an opportunity. So in your new position in Norway, you're working with whom now?
So I'm working at the University of Bergen, and specifically on a project that has just been established, looking at, using gliders to look at currents and other observations in the Norwegian seas and Icelandic seas.
Well, now as you're doing that, you're going to keep an eye out for the perfect photo moment again, aren't you? For next year.
Yeah, maybe if we can get a glider with the Northern Lights in the background, that would be pretty special.
That would be phenomenal. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Fiona. I really appreciate it, and for the beautiful photo, which I know everyone will love. We're looking forward to some photos from future deployments, too. It'd be great.
Thank you, Melissa. It's been good talking to you.
Good talking to you, too. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to the Marine Tech Talk podcast. If you'd like more information about the programs at the National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research in New Zealand, we'll put links to the Institute's Twitter and Facebook accounts in the notes for this episode, as well as a link to the Twitter account for our guest, Fiona Elliott. If you have any questions or comments about this show, you can email host Melissa Rossi at marinetechtalk@teledyne.com. If you like this podcast, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're hearing this show. That way, you'll never miss an episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time.